Hello and welcome to another episode of NSE FinViz powered by CNBC TV 18. This week we get our experts to meet the young employees of the magnificent Taj Palace in New Delhi.
I have invested in real estate and I have invested in stocks and insurance policy I used to do it earlier, but I think it's not investment because it doesn't give very good returns.
Maybe stocks I would like to invest in. I would like to go in, though I don't understand stocks as well, but a couple of my friends at workplace, at my family, they invest in stock. That's what I want to go and see how does it look like. But as of now, I don't have any knowledge about the stocks.
I would definitely like to invest in mutual funds. Not that I understand much of it, but then I understand there are low risk and medium risk and high risk mutual funds that one can invest into.
It would be nice to get a little input on risk assessment because there's a lot in the market to offer, but you're constantly reading those fine prints that say, so and so is subjected to market risks. It would be nice for someone like me to understand what is the impact of that, implication of that fine print.
I'm more interested in being able to understand how you go about balancing a portfolio. They say that there's supposed to be a balance and there's supposed to be, some high risk, some high return kind of a portfolio.
We're now joined by our two experts. We have Harshvardhan Roongta, who's a certified financial planner at Roongta Securities. Welcome to the show, Harsh. And we have Gajendra Kothari, who's the MD and CEO at Etica Wealth Management. Welcome, Gajendra. Gajendra, first question to you. When people hear the word personal finance, they get very overwhelmed because it's such a huge subject. Is it possible for you to make it a little simple for the layman?
Okay. Yeah, as you rightly said, in India we say almost 90-95% of the population is literate. But when it comes to financial literacy, I'm very sorry to say that we're just 5% of the people who are financially literate. And this is very important to know because in our syllabus, in our course studies, in our education system, they don't have anything to do with personal finance. While we may study astronomy and whatnot, but as basic as how to manage money is not been taught. So that's why we are always overwhelmed by this question. But I can put down in 3 simple ways how you can actually make personal finance work for you. So you have all heard of Warren Buffett, who is the world's richest investor. He has made his entire money by investing. Okay, so the same way in our case, and how could he make? Because he started at 11. He first bought his first investment at 11, and now he says that was too late actually. So in today's show, we see a lot of young minds out here. My first suggestion to out here is start right now, start early. And someone has said, well begun is half done, right? So if you can start early, you'll have a lot of time for your money to grow. And there's something called power of compounding. I don't know if you've ever heard the term. This is, Albert Einstein says power of compounding is the greatest mathematical discovery ever made. And if you start now, and if you just continue for next 20-30 years, the kind of money you make is amazing, That will take care of for the next 20-25 years in your retirement.
So, okay, Harsh, let's assume we've started early. But there's another thing which is really important is discipline and patience. How do you get people to follow that path? What's your experience?
We've heard long-term investments, right? We know people giving us statistics saying that over a period of time, equities is the best asset class to be in. So over 30 years, if you look at Nifty, ever since it has been launched, it has given up a 17% compounded returns till date. Now the idea is, have you stayed that long to take the benefits of equity? Now compare, we all know, we know that our ancestors are invested into real estate. Some of us are bearing the fruits of those investments today. So invariably, we've landed up holding that asset even till date. So we have, something invested, suppose a lakh of rupees was invested into a land by your great-grandfather. Today that sells for like about 20 crores. So we feel that real estate has given us good returns, which it may have. I am not denying that fact. But have you realized the underlying philosophy behind it? Your great-grandfather had invested and you are going to realize it today. So there is one question of discipline and patience, right? So while an asset may give very good returns, the investment has given good returns, but has the investor got those returns? So equity has done very well, but have you done very well in your equity investment? So there are 2 things which you need to keep in mind with any investment. You need to have patience. You need to maintain discipline.
But Gajendra, the other point is also that not everybody, like a lot of people do equate equities with high risk. And it's always the thought, that I'll put my money in, mera paisa डूब जाएगा, क्या करें? What's your viewpoint on that? How do we counter this?
Okay, it's a very good...
Why should we look at equities then?
Okay, equities, it's a very good question, very valid question. The moment the word equity comes, we equate it with gambling or casino, not for me, but actually equity is the best way to create wealth. Now when I say why, see, always remember equity is risky in the short term, but it's very safe in the long term. Now let me tell you how. So suppose you all are employees of Taj Hotels, right? If I were to ask you a question that today or tomorrow how much sale you make, how many rooms will be occupied, you don't have an answer because it can change. But over a long term, if I ask you how is the business model of Taj, and it's the best hotel in India, and the occupancy rate is very high, a lot of guests are coming, so it's a good sign. So in the long term, Taj will make great amount of money. So the same thing is with equity. In the short term, I don't know what are the trends, what policies come, how is the season right now, what factors can influence. But in the long term, if the company is doing well, you as a shareholder will always make money. And why I always say equity in the long term will give you high returns, because this is one of the asset class, one of the very rare asset class which can beat inflation in the long term.
Previously, as I've raised it for real estates, though it's a long-term investment, but as far as the risk factors are concerned, so if you can just highlight on some of the risk factors over here, it's long-term, it's been based on the investment as well, the amount is huge, everything is okay, but what are the risk factors?
Real estate at first is an important asset class. Okay, you need to, or rather if you can afford to, you should invest into real estate. Now the bigger question is how much? Okay, if it's the first house that you're buying, then you have the liberty to ignore the rules of asset allocation and invest a major portion, or rather everything that you have, into that asset class, because that is what it will take for you to get a house for yourself. Now let me explain this. If you were to take this through a housing loan, the eligibility that a bank looks at while granting you a loan is basically 50% of your income. They assume you can give us EMI. So if you're earning 100 lakhs, if you're earning a 1 lakh rupees, 50,000 the bank assumes is what you can give us EMI. How much would a loan come for an EMI equivalent of 50,000 rupees? In layman terms, it is about 50 lakh of rupees. So you will be granted a loan, sanctioned a loan up to 50 lakh of rupees. Now what happens in this case? If it's your first house, we excuse an investor and say you can go ahead and do it. This will suck out the entire liquidity that you have. 50% is your expenses, the other 50% has kind of gone into paying for only one asset class. So you have nothing left, theoretically, to invest into any other asset class.
What is good, VPF versus ELSS? Okay. PPF versus return.
A very good question. If you are an investor who wants absolute safety of your investment, PPF is the best choice. It will never give you sleepless nights, right? But hang on, if you are young and if you have 30 years to retirement, and as you mentioned the inflation is like 10%, 11, 12, whatever, 8% may not be enough. So that is where government has given another option, which is tax saving mutual funds. If you invest in those category of mutual funds, A, you get tax benefits, and secondly, as data suggests, for the last 20 years, these funds on an average has given 18-19% per annum return tax-free. Okay? Now, I'll give you a very live example of a case study of an investor who has invested for 16 years in a PPF. Altogether in the last 16 years, he has invested 12 lakhs rupees per annum, and this is a real case study, by the way. Over a 16-year period, that 12 lakhs has today become 20 lakhs rupees in a PPF. If the same person would have invested the same amount on those days when he has deposited in the PPF into a tax-saving mutual fund, you know what is the value today? It's 81 lakhs rupees, tax-free. 20 versus 81. Obviously, in the long term, as I mentioned in my initial comment, equity is safe in the long term and equity can create wealth. So if you can take bit risk in the short term, because in the short term market will be volatile, but in the long term if you just stay invested, ELSS can be a far better option for you.
This is NSE FinViz powered by CNBC TV 18 Season 2. It's time for a very short break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching NSE FinViz powered by CNBC TV 18.
Sir, as you said that it's better to start early than to start never, I too agree completely with this fact. So just recently it's my first job, and if I want to build my own portfolio, so which are the key, equity should I be going into, or the debts, or which are the key factors which I need to look into?
I would say you're at one of the best places currently to be, because you're starting on a clean slate altogether. So, it's better to start on a clean note in a perfect manner rather than go halfway down, have made some mistakes, undo all that and start all over again. So what you should be keeping in mind, okay, we're not talking about only equities at this moment. Let me give you a broader perspective. Okay, what all are your challenges? What are the challenges that you are going to face? The first is you need to outline what are the requirements. Okay, going to be, say, probably 1 year down the line, 2 years down the line, 10 years, 20 years down the line. You may want to get married, you may want to, support your marriage by your own finances, right? So these are the goals you will need to make in the first place. Once you make those goals, you define those goals, okay, then you start quantifying those goals. If I have to get married 2 years from now or 5 years from now and I have to pay for it, how much do I need? So now you will start quantifying them. If you say that I'm going to build something for my own self because I may not work beyond a point, but I should have regular income, if that is your goal, then you will need to again quantify. I will say stop working from 40 years of age, but I will require so much money every month. So you again identify those goals and quantify those goals. Now you work backwards. Once you identified all these goals, then you start working backwards. If I have to achieve this goal, how much do I need to invest and where do I need to invest? This will give you an answer to say whether you need to go into equities, whether to go into debt, and if equities, how much and how.
Is the ELSS plans are equal than the ULIP plans?
Okay, so Gajendra, a little clarity on what ELSS is and what ULIP is.
No. So ELSS, as I said, it's a tax-saving mutual fund. It's a kind of a mutual fund investment. ULIPs are from insurance companies. Good thing is that both are tax, under deductible under ATC. So if you want to choose to go for ULIPs and want to have some insurance as a combo, then you can go for ULIP. But if you want a pure investment, then ELSS can be a good thing. But they are two completely different things.
Harsh, we've been speaking a lot about the tax saving under Section 80C, and he just answered the question on ELSS and ULIPs. So I want to talk to you about life insurance. How important is life insurance? You obviously do get benefits under Section 80C, and more importantly, how important is for corporates? So they're here, they're working for the Taj Group, they have a good life insurance cover with the company. How important is it to have one separately on a personal level?
Life insurance is something which we are completely annoyed with, not because the product is not good, because we've been sold always in a manner which we don't like to be sold. But however, look at it like this: if you have a car, you've insured your car, one, because the government is asking you to do that, it is compulsory. Besides the fact, if your car gets stolen or if the car gets damaged, there is an expense, there is money that you have to pay to get it restored back. And then what an insurance company does, it reimburses those costs to you for all the expenses that you've incurred, or rather whatever is covered in the policy. Now look at it from a life insurance perspective. Okay, you are, let's look at it financially and let's not get emotional about it. You are an income generating asset. There are some dependents, who are completely, living a lifestyle because you are generating a particular income and you're giving them that lifestyle. If you were to take away yourself out of that family picture, how is your household going to run? Okay, you could have your spouse could be working as well, but there is a particular lifestyle that you're living today because of double income. It could be a possibility that your wife is taking care of the house, right? So how does that household expenses be taken care of? How do you replace yourself financially? If you're earning 100,000, if you're earning that kind of money every month, how do you make sure that money comes to your family even when you're not there? If you are not there, the family still lives. The expenses are still going to be there. Your son is, or your daughter is still going to grow up. She is still going to require education. So how do you make sure these things happen? So there is the concept of insurance.
We have discussed a lot about equity funds, but I want to know that if 2 years or 3 years most probs down the line, I need some money for my weddings or for holidays or something. So do we have some short-term plans so that in 2 or 3 years down the line we get some money?
So for short-term requirements, definitely the fixed deposit is the best option because that's very safe. You can withdraw the money in the given time frame. But fixed deposit has a little issue in the sense you have to stay within that time frame. So if your fixed deposit is for 3 years and if you were to withdraw after 2.5 years, you have some penalty to attract and you will get a lower rate. A similar option exists in a mutual fund called debt mutual funds, and as the name suggests, debt, it's a kind of a safe, very safe investment wherein not a single rupee goes into equity, it goes into fixed income instruments. And if your horizon is 2.5 years, you can put something like in short-term bond funds, which can give you very close to what a fixed deposit gives.
On that note, it's time for a very short break. Don't go anywhere. You're watching NSE FinViz powered by CNBC TV 18. Welcome back. You're watching NSE FinViz powered by CNBC TV 18, and today we're at the Taj Palace in New Delhi.
So I want to know about the retirement policies. Which is better? Should I go for the policy from an insurance company or do a SIP and continue till the age of retirement?
I have planned that I need to retire by 55, let's say. So right now I'm investing 1 lakh rupees a month. So I'm investing 1 lakh rupees a month per month for my retirement. Okay. Now, just to tell you how much it would give me, and this is my expectation, this is no way guarantee that it would give, because as I said, so I'm a little high risk taker for myself, and if I expect 18% return on my portfolio, at 55 it will give me 85 crores rupees. And then, that 85 crores rupees, I can, so he talked about STP and SIP, there's something called SWP. In SIP, you create wealth over the next 20 years to build your retirement corpus. There is something called SWP. Once you've created that wealth, how do you want to use that wealth for your retirement? And that is where systematic withdrawal plan comes in. So when I get 85 crores or roughly that about at 55 years of age, for next 25 years in my retirement, I need to consume that amount, right? So that is when SWP will start giving me, let's say if I want 1 lakh rupees a month, if I start an SWP, automatically 1 lakh rupees a month will start deducting from my portfolio. Rest amount continue to remain invested, and I keep getting that amount during the whole of my retirement.
Harsh, Gajendra, we're just about out of time, but before we wind up the episode, we had a viewer who sent in his question. His name is Achal. He's based in Bangalore, and he says that he's got a 2-year time frame. He says, for that 2 years, is it a good idea to buy gold now? Because currently gold is lower than what it was a few years ago. Harsh, what's your advice to him?
Well, if we see gold as an asset class, you see the pricing is affected by a couple of factors. Now, one of the factors is demand supply. The other is the international trend internationally and the forex rate, and the third is the inflation rate. Now, the World Gold Council came out with a report very recently to say that the demand for gold world over is at a 5-year low. Okay. If you look at the international trends, the sentiments have been bearish on gold. The one reason being because the other asset, the equity markets started doing so well. So money has started flowing into other asset classes and gold has been neglected. The third is inflation. Historically, if we know, gold has been a hedge against inflation. So what does it mean? If the rate of inflation in India is say 8%, gold will give you an 8% return. But what we have seen over the last 3 years, gold has surpassed the rate of inflation, and it has gone way beyond what the return it should be giving. So now when you see, if you see a last 3 months return on gold has been a negative of 8%. That's why, the reason being because if inflation is at one stage, the gold prices have gone up. And now when inflation is receding, the gold prices will also start matching. That's a simple layman language understanding. So my personal view, I think the gold, it's better he avoids gold at this juncture and invest into say other asset classes, could be even bonds.
Thank you so much, Harsh. Thank you so much, Gajendra. And thank you so much for having us here today. Thank you.
some portfolios that I was completely ignoring, like ALSS or even investing in some safe bonds and all, that we can do.
There were problems for me. That is why I asked the questions, and I've got the information. Then I'm gonna do changes and stick to what I've been doing and what I was thinking.
I'm taking the factors what he has given me for real estate investment. So what all aspect needs to be looked for before investing in real estate.
Well, that's all on this episode of NSE FinViz powered by CNBC TV 18. And while the employees of the Taj Palace are top-notch in their hospitality, we hope that our experts have been able to guide them secure a financially stable future for themselves. And if you have any questions for our experts, please feel free to email us at fwq@network18online.com. Until next week, from the entire team, many thanks for watching.